Welcome to our introduction of a very nifty calculator, the Casio fx-300ES. And the ES is what's really important. Plus seems to be what they have these days. It doesn't matter if you have the plus or not. Or if you want, you can get the 115. Again, the ES is the important part. If you get the Casio, I guess that's important, the Casio FX300ES Plus or the Casio FX115ES, you are going to be happy. You may have noticed I put it in the syllabus. Usually when this class meets, like in an actual class, like at 7 o'clock in the morning, I actually make it a formal requirement. You gotta have the calculator. You gotta have the calculator, and it counts for points and everything. I didn't do that this term because how am I gonna know? You're at home, right? I'm not gonna know. But I still strongly recommend you get this calculator. It's one of the handy dandiest little, it's only like $14 or something depending where you go. Don't go to CVS, they want 20 bucks, that's a rip off. But you should be able to get it for like $14 or something somewhere. Anyway, let me show you what the calculator looks like. Watch this. Camera. That's what the calculator looks like. So I got a little glare on top, but it does indeed say Casio FX300ES Plus. Not the MS, but the ES, the ES Plus. And here's how you can turn it on. Yeah, here's how you can turn it on right there. See the on button? You push it. How about that? And the first thing I want to do is get your calculator set up to do things that we want it to do, because otherwise you get answers that look different than mine and everyone gets, a little bit disturbed or whatever. So let's not be disturbed. Let's do this. I hit the shift. So see that little S shows up to show, hey, you just hit the shift button. And so it knows that I'm going to do this setup in yellow. Shift, setup. Look at all those options. What you might want to do right now is hit the 3 for degrees. Options 3, 4, and 5 are choosing what kind of units do you want for your angles. And you can have degrees, you can have radians, you can have grads. Degrees is what we'll always want, and we're not going to be playing with angles for a while, but we might as well just put it to 3 right now so we don't have that problem later. Now let's go to Shift, Setup again. What else we got? Fix, that's if you want to show a fixed number of decimal places. You want every answer to be, 3 decimal places. You want every answer to be 4 decimal places. I have no idea why you'd want to do that, but you might want to do that someday. That's what that would do. 7 is called scientific notation. I know you've heard of that. We're not going to be using that for a little while. We will in a few, like couple 3 lectures or so. We'll use that, but not yet. And then you might as well know about 8, norm. This is the one that when I have you put it in scientific notation, the question I invariably get about 2 days later is, how do I get it out of scientific notation? And that's what the 8 will do for you, or at least that's how I do it. You hit the 8 for normal. And this is weird, because if you hit 8 for normal, I want normal. It gives you a choice between normal 1 or normal 2. I honestly have no idea what the difference is. So I always do normal 1, and I'm usually happy. So anyway, let's go back to Shift Setup again, because what I really need you to do for today is we need to focus on these first 2. This is math input-output. This is line input-output. Most people are used to line input-output. So let's actually set the calculator to line input-output. I'll hit the 2, boink. And now I've got what's called line input-output. So if I do something like 5 divided by 6, and I hit equals, it gives me the answer on a nice straight line. 0.8. That's line input-output. So let's go do some of this on the actual note sheet here. So if you, let's see now here. Yeah, if you go Shift, you have to do the Shift to get to the setup. Shift, Setup, 2. That got us line input-output. Maybe I'll write it this way. If you do that, then when you go 5 divide by 6 and you hit equals, you get 0.8. And I actually counted them. I think there were, did I count right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think there's 9 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which means the calculator is showing about 10 decimal places there. Okay. Again, that's what people are usually used to. I'm going to try to get us used to something different because it will often be more convenient to use it this way. So for today, at least, let's go to Shift Setup 1, which is going to be math input-output. And let's see what happens differently. When you hit 5 divided by 6, it's going to look a little different. So let's go back to the camera and I'll show you what's different. Camera. Okay. So, what am I going to do? Oh, yeah. I'm going to go Shift, Setup, number 1 for math input output. And I'm not sure why it would ask you for, if you want math input output, then do you want math output or line output? I don't know why they're asking me that. So I'm just going to put 1 math output. I want math input output with math output. Okay, so I could do it right now, 5 divided by 6, or you might as well learn about this button right away. See that answer button? Whenever you want to do something with the last answer that you just calculated, you can call it back using the answer button. So if I just hit answer, that's the previous answer I got. And if I hit equals, it'll show me what it is. Answer equals. And here's the difference. I did 5 divided by 6, and it gave me 5, 6. So let's go back to here. It gave me a fraction, which is like standard form. I'm going to highlight that. If you do Shift Setup 1 for math input, 5 divided by 6 is 5, 6, standard form. Notice by implication, this is not standard form. That's just a crummy old decimal. Who wants a crummy old decimal? This is standard form. 5 divided by 6. It's perfect. It's crisp. It's exact. It preserves exactitude. It's clear. This thing may look accurate. This up here, this 0.8. Oh, look, it's got 10 decimal places, but it's actually rounded off because there's more 3's coming that you've just decided to ignore. Yeah, it's really, really close, but it's technically not exactly correct. So 5 divided by 6. One of the beauties of that is it preserves 100% accuracy. Now I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, well, what if I don't want 5, 6? Do I have to keep switching the thing back and forth between Shift Setup 1 and Shift Setup 2? No, 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 you don't. If you leave it in Shift Setup 1 like I do, but you want a decimal, and often we do, that's what this button will do for you. See the S to D? That converts standard form to decimal form. So if I hit the S to D, boink, there it is, 0.833333. Remember what that bar means over the 3. It means you copy and paste the 3 over and over forever. So this is 0.8333. Notice it's still more exact than the rounded off 10 decimal place crummy approximation. This is still a perfect estimate. 0.833333 forever. You can hit the SD and go back. Oh, then it goes to crummy form. Okay, and then you go to fraction form, back to, I guess that's the best decimal you're going to get, crummy form, back to the perfect standard form, and so on. So it's a toggle switch. It's just a nice little toggle switch. So let's put that on our notes too. Maybe I'll do this in a slightly different color. So SD button for going standard, back and forth to decimal form. And actually it seemed to toggle among 3 forms really, but whatever. So if you leave it in Shift Setup 1, which is what I'm going to do, you're going to get answers that look like this. If you want the decimal, hit this button. Okay? We're moving now, folks? Okay. So we're going to, like I said, I'm going to emphasize fractional exact standard forms for a while. Of course, we do need to learn to use decimals accurately as well, but first let's get used to fractions. Fractions happen, as you well know. I mean, we might as well know something about them, right? Like, this looks like some kind of, birdhouse math or something. I got a board and it measures 3 3/16, and I need to trim off 9/32 for some reason. So what's the resulting dimension going to be? Well, if you don't want to fall back on all the old ways that we learned to play with fractions, common denominators, borrowing, and all that stuff, well, what you can do is you can use the fraction button. So where's that? Well, let me get the camera going again. Okay, so I'm going to hit the AC for all clear. All clear. Okay, I wanted to hit a fraction. This button right here is for entering fractions. Notice it's got a thing over a thing. It's like a box over a box. It's for entering fractions. And actually, if you look in the yellow ink just above, you can get 3 boxes. You get a box in the front and a box top and bottom. So if you have a mixed number, then what you actually do is the shift fraction key. And then you get your 3 zones. And then we can enter our number. We had a 3 in front, so I put the 3. Now I got to hop up to the top, so I think I'll just hit the right arrow, which will move me over. And I've got a 3 up there as well. Now I got to get to the bottom. I don't think it matters whether I could hit the down key to go down, or I could hit the right key that says go to the next. Doesn't really matter. Put the 16 down there, that's what matters. And now notice after you've entered the 16, your cursor is still in the denominator, right? So if you tried entering minus right now, that's not quite what you want. So I'll use DEL to go back one. Boink. You want to get the cursor out of the denominator, so you hit this right arrow key again. And now the cursor is outside the fraction like this. Cool. Now I can say subtract 9/32. So subtract. This is just a standard fraction, so I hit the standard fraction. No shift required. 9 divided by 32. And now I can hit equals. Boink. And there's my answer. 93/32. Now that was quick, wasn't it? 93/32. Let's go back, put this on our notes, right? So what did we do? We used the shift fraction key. This is my symbol for the fraction key. So the shift fraction key is what gave you the mixed number. And then we could put the 3 in, and then I hit the right arrow to get up to the top of the fraction to put another 3 in, and then you can hit the down arrow to come down and put the 16 in. But then you have to hit the right arrow again to get out of the denominator, to get out of the fraction. Then I can hit my minus, which is a minus button. Then I hit my fraction key again. The cursor by default starts up top, so you hit the 9, you hit the down arrow to come to the bottom, you hit the 32, and then you hit the equals, and it says the answer is 93/32. And if you hit the SD button, like I will do right now, it tells you that's a D. SD button, you hit 2.90625. And if I hit the SD button again, it says 93/32. 2.90625. 93/32. So it's a toggle switch back and forth between those two forms. I know what you're probably thinking. You're saying, yeah, but that's an improper fraction. I don't want an improper fraction. I want to go 32 into 93 goes how many times and get a mixed number. So you do shift SD. I'll illustrate this in a moment. Oh, I'll illustrate it right now, actually. Boink, camera, boink. Okay, get a little crooked there. So there's my thing, 93/32. So like I was saying, if you hit the SD button, it gives you the decimal form. Goes back and forth between the two. But what I really want is a mixed number, so you hit Shift SD, and there's the mixed number. 2 and 29/30. Face it, this is fun. 2 and 29/30. Cool. Fraction button, SD button. The SD button is huge, right? If you get a fraction, you want a decimal, hit the SD. That's a big take home. But if you want to play with fractions, you get a fraction button. That's cool too. Big warning though, and it took me a while to figure this out. What if you forgot the first 3? In other words, that one. What if you forgot the first 3? You entered this by mistake, 3/16 minus 9/32, and you got an answer of, well, let's do that on our camera, or on our calculator, or even on our camera. Okay, so I'm gonna forget to put that 3 in. So I'll do this. I'll just clear all, and I'll say, okay, I hit the fraction key, and then I hit the 3/16 here. 3, come down to the bottom, put a 16, come out. Put my minus, right? Yep, minus, and then put another fraction button, 9 on the top, come down to the bottom, put a 32, and I hit my equals, and now it's saying -3/30. Oh, I wasn't expecting that. -3/30, and something in your very heart of hearts tells you that can't be right. I had more than 3 inches, and I only took away 9/32. Why am I getting a negative number, for goodness sakes? Something. Oh, I remember. I forgot the 3. I forgot the 3. And so what you might do is you might want to hit the back arrow a bunch of times. Let's see. Like a whole bunch of times. Let's do that on the camera. So you say, yeah, I forgot to put my 3 in the front there. I got to get back there. I got to get back there. So you hit the back arrow. Gets you back up into the answer, or what you entered. And then you can keep going. You can keep back arrowing, going backwards until you get out in front. And then you put the 3 in front. Looks good, right? And then I don't think I really need to come to the end, but I will just in case anyone says, well, maybe it's because you didn't go to the end. So I'll go to the end. See, looks good. And then I hit the equals. Bonk. Wait a minute, that's not the right answer either. It's not negative, but that's not what we got before. 930 seconds. Okay, let's get back here. So I hit the back arrow a bunch to put the 3 in front. And now it says 9/32. We're still wrong. This is the big warning I'm talking about. If you enter a fraction, addition, subtraction problem like this, and you forgot that it was a mixed number somehow, you can't just come in front. You can't do this. You can't just hop in front and stick the 3 here. You have any idea what the problem would be? Well, here's the problem. Let's do this in a nice color. How about green? That's a nice color. Okay. Problem is, when you put the 3 in front like we did here, it sees a 3 followed by a 3/16. It's thinking multiply. It's multiplying 3 times 3/16. And it's not supposed to. It's supposed to add, right? That's what, when we say 3 and 3/16, we mean 3 add on 3 more 16ths, right? What we mean is 3 and 3/16. We don't mean 3 times 3/16. So I'm trying to put here should add. Therefore, make sure when you enter a mixed number that you use the shift fraction key. Okay, big warning. Use shift fraction key if you want to enter a mixed number. Don't just back your cursor up and put a 3 in front. You know how long it took me to figure out what was going wrong? Because I'd have people say, look, it says it right there. And I say, yeah, it says it right there. So why the heck are you getting that answer? And it took me a long time to figure out, oh, you just snuck the 3 in there. You didn't use the shift fraction key. You just kind of shoved the 3 right in there. You can't do it that way. Otherwise, it thinks multiplication, okay? That's your big warning. Gee, I should really put that on the quiz, shouldn't I? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, that's one page. Now, this example here is where you start to get the true power of the calculator right here. Now we're going to be talking power. This is power. So, well, you've got this in front of you, so it's okay if I go to the camera screen, right? Do I have it in front of me? Yes, I have it in front of me. Okay, we want to enter that. We want to figure out what that formula is. And by the way, you've got electrical formulas in your future that look even worse than that. They look similar. A lot of them look similar. A lot of them are going to look actually worse than that. So it's good to know how to do this stuff. So this calculator is actually going to make your electrical formula life a little easier if you get used to swinging it around like this. Let's go back to the camera. How am I going to enter that? First, I'm going to hit the all clear. All clear. Okay. Now, what you noticed, hopefully you're looking at the paper in front of you right now. What you noticed, well, maybe I'll go back for a second. What you noticed is that, first of all, we've got a big old fraction. We got nothing but a 1 on top and a whole bunch of gook on the bottom. But at heart, it's a fraction. 1 on top. So guess what? I'm going to hit the fraction key first. So let me go back to my camera now. Boink, boink. So to start entering all that stuff, I start with the fraction button. Boink. And now I've set myself up an upper zone and a lower zone, and I can start filling it in. Now remember, on top there was nothing but a little old 1, so that's not so hard. But then you got to come down to the bottom. Now if you look at the bottom of that fraction, it's a whole bunch of stuff inside of a square root. So the next thing you do is you set up your little square root zone. So there's the square root button, see it? So I hit this, and now I've got a square root in my denominator. The first thing I see in the square root is a parentheses. Well, here's a nice parentheses button right there. So I'm going to open the parentheses. In that parentheses is a fraction, so I hit the fraction button. The top of the fraction is a 1. Come down to the bottom of the fraction, and it's a 3.1. Right, so this is how I'm entering that fraction. Now I want to close the parentheses. Now again, you can't close it right now because look where your parentheses is. It's in the absolute wrong spot. So I hit the DEL to back up one. Make sure you hit this button first to get out of the denominator. Now I can close the parentheses. Notice how it scales the size of the parentheses to show you that the whole fraction's in there. I just love it. And then it's squared. So there's a shortcut for squaring things, and it's right there, the old x squared button. Boink. And now I've just squared it. Awesome city. And then we're adding another fraction. So we add, and we hit the fraction button again. And on top is a 1, so just put the 1 there, come down to the bottom. And on the bottom, it says 3.6 times 2.8, and it says it using parentheses. You could do this by multiplying 3.6, hit the multiply symbol, 2.8, or I actually like to use my parentheses for multiplication. I think it's somehow, I make fewer mistakes this way. So 3.6 times 2.8, and when it sees a parentheses up against a parentheses, it knows what you mean. It knows that you should multiply. Something to notice. Notice I got 2 lines up here. One is the fraction bar, and the other one is the square root extending. Notice I'm still inside the square root. Okay, you got to pay attention to things like that. If for some reason back here, before you hit this plus, if you had hit the right key twice, you would have left the square root key, and then it's the square root symbol, and then you'd be adding this stuff outside the square root. So you want to make sure you stayed inside the square root, and that line shows you that you stayed inside the square root. So anyway, that's really about it. So I'm just going to hit equals here and see what we got. Boink. 2.21803.861. Okay, cool. Back to the notes. So as an instant replay, I hit the fraction button first. Then I put a 1 on top. Then I hit the down arrow. Then I hit the square root button next. Then I hit the parentheses button next. Then I hit the fraction key next, right? You get really used to this as you keep playing with these formulas. I put the 1 in, down arrow, put the 3.1 in. I had to do a right arrow to get out of my denominator, close the parentheses, and then I was able to use the x squared button. And then I was able to use the plus button. And then I was able to use the fraction button again to set up a fraction, a top and bottom zone, a 1 on the top, bottom. And I actually entered it the way it looked. Parentheses, 3.6, close parentheses, open parentheses, 2.8, close parentheses. And then I hit the equals, and my answer is a 2.21803.861 or thereabouts anyway. Cool. Make sure you can do this on your calculator without much stress. Now, you might have one of those $200 calculators that technically can do this, but it's not as easy as it is on the Casio. You may want to invest the 14 bucks or at least borrow from somebody or something. Borrow the calculator, I mean. Or you can borrow the 14 bucks, whatever you need to do. Get the calculator, please. That would be a good idea. So this particular lecture is just an introduction to the calculator. We'll learn more of its features later. It's got more stuff that it can do really, really well. This is just to get you used to putting formulas in, you know, the way they look. I mean, that's, back at the camera for a second. That's one of my selling points, is that when you type in the formula, it looks the same on the calculator as it does on the piece of paper, and it helps make sure that you're entering things correctly. It's a hugely powerful tool for keeping yourself accurate, for minimizing your mistakes. Now, before I let you loose on the homework, the first thing I should do is mention something about rounding. Make sure on the homework that you follow the instructions. If it says round to 4 decimal places, please round to 4 decimal places. If it says round to 3 or 2 or 1, round to whatever it says, okay? Then I just want to make sure that we understand how rounding works, that we all understand it the same way. So 4 examples and then a fifth. 4 examples here. Round these to 2 decimal places. So you probably remember something about how this goes. 2 decimal places. So I go, okay, 1.55, and then you go like this. You're chopping it after 2 decimal places. But you're not just chopping it. You have to round according to the very next digit. So the very next digit in this case is a 5. And remember, 5 or higher, you should round up. So this 1.55 becomes 1.56. Okay, cool. 1 down, 3 to go. So 2 decimal places, 1.55, and I'm going to kind of stop there. I see a 9, but I don't let that freak me out because it's the 4 that matters, the very next digit. You look at the very next digit, and because it is less than 5, you don't round it up, you just leave it where it is, 1.55. So that one stays there, 1.55. What do you think of this one? 1.5950 rounded to 2 decimal places. What are you going to be looking at? Well, come over to chop. Now because of the 5, because it's higher, I have to round up. The 9 has to round up. In this case, I think of it as a 59 has to round up to a 60. Make sure you put 1.60, not just 1.6, but 1.60, because if you're going to round to 2 decimal places, you should show 2 decimal places, 1.60. Okay, so if you got that, you probably got this next one, 1.9999999. Okay, so you're going to chop it right out there. All that matters is that the very next digit is big. That means I have to round up. And if you got a bunch of 9s, just go back as far as you have to. Think of it as a 199 rounding up to a 200. And so you don't just put 2, put 2.00. That expresses 2 decimal places of accuracy. Okay, to express 2 decimal places, there's got to be 2 decimal places. Okay, so cool. And then the last one, convert to a decimal and then round to 3 decimal places. Okay. Well, to convert this to a decimal, I suppose you got 2 choices. One is the old-fashioned approach where you just go 1 divided by 11. Or you could use the fraction key, put the 1 on top, the 11 on the bottom, hit the equals, and then use that SD button, right? Either way will work. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to get the camera out and do both approaches. Get the camera out. Camera's out. Okay, so let's do the all clear. All clear. So if you go 1 divided by 11 this way, you get, yeah, I guess I have to hit the SD anyway. I get 0.09 bar. Okay. So I had to hit the SD anyway. But you got 0.09 and the bar was like that. So what you got to do then is you got to say to yourself, what would that look like if I copied and pasted a few times? Since the bar is over the 0.9, you take the 0.9 and copy paste it forever theoretically. Okay, so if I want to round this to 3 decimal places, look where I'm going to chop. So because of this 9 here, that 0 is going to have to become a 1, 0.091. So be careful how you round, especially when these bar things start showing up. Be careful that you round and you show the actual desired number of decimal places, and make sure you handle the copy pastes correctly. Okay, well, you just got a nice little homework to play with your calculator.